next, we have our host for the storytelling show for Tales from the Inside. So, what you know her, you love her, the amazing Kendra Dawsey.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. This is Tales from the Inside. As you could probably tell, I am on the inside of a house or a shelter, a structure. I am wearing a hoodie because my AC is powerful and I did not do my hair today. And I hope you all do not expect me to do the emotional labor of expecting me to explain why my hair looks a mess. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here today. We have a lot of really cool comics telling stories. So, the theme of our storytelling show tonight is Hot Girl Summer. And of course, that means different things to different people. Maybe you identify as a hot girl. Maybe you are like, no, I'm actually an ugly girl on the inside. Um, I just identify as a lesbian who has appropriated the 70s kidnapper glasses back from other individuals. That's my main identity. But I decided to make the theme Hot Girl Summer because, a large, an increasing amount of Americans are vaxxed. I think about half of Americans are fully vaxxed. And there's some people, to be blunt, they're out there trying to fuck or do other hot associated things. Maybe you're not into fucking, but you like eating ice cream outside. Like whatever you want to do, define your own hot girl summer. I I remember after a relationship last year, I was trying to do a hot girl late winter, early spring. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna have fun, whatever. I went on one date a few weeks after I broke up with my ex. I went on one date. During the course of this date, I got food poisoning and threw up politely in this person's toilet. Then I went home. They made me tea. They were very nice. Then I went home and then the pandemic happened. So I am probably going to make up for some lost time, to be quite honest. It was very unpleasant. That was so yeah, I do really like summer though. Honestly, as a person with my origins not uh not in the not in this region. My ancestors did not come from this region. I don't like the cold. you know there's a part of me that like just wish slavery has never happened so that I don't have to like be it's like okay, slavery happened, now I'm in Boston and I'm cold for like half the year, and I know Africa has its own problems and stuff, but if I were still in Africa laid up on some sort of hammock speaking one of 500 languages indigenous to Africa, I would not need a North Face jacket. And that's what I am mostly mad about at this day and age. But yeah, a little bit more about me in my hot girl summer. I was trying to exercise a little bit during the pandemic last year, when the weather was out. And this was like before, it was like when we didn't know exactly how the virus was like. So everyone was like, okay, like just stay inside, or like go outside, but like wear a mask. So I would like try to bike. I did yoga a few times. I got one whole ab and then I was like, this is not enough abs. And I just quit. I got tired of it. Abs aren't worth it. Um, it's just whatever. But last around this time last year was really stressful for me because I was moving right in the middle of all the protests for George Floyd, RIP. Um, and yeah, it was just a lot. I moved into an apartment with like two white people and they were really nice and didn't let me not unpack for like 2 weeks, which was great because they were like, you were probably stressed out, which was amazing. But yeah, that was a wild time, honestly. And then like after that period, so like first month of June, for the average Black American, the experience was just like white people going up to you, like white people you haven't spoken to in 5 years, going up to you and being like, "Are you actually okay? Are you okay? But like, how are you feeling though? How are you feeling?" And it's like, I don't need all of that. Just give me like $5. Like if you feel bad, just give me money. Don't ask me what my feelings are. My boss asked me how I was doing around that time. I do have 2 Black coworkers, so she had practice. She had time to practice, but she did ask me how I was doing. And I didn't want to say like, oh, everything sucks, and then just take a giant bong rip, in front of my boss at 10 a.m. Even though that's how I felt, just like shit sucks, let me take a giant bong rip and just keep watching cartoons. So I was just like, I'm just really tired. That was my like nice response. Could not say like, I feel like all of America hates me and I haven't been able to sleep. But yeah, last summer was not a hot girl summer, but I did kayak a lot. That's basically what I have to say. Yeah, that's about it. That's what I have. But we do have a lot of really awesome comics. I'm not feeling so hot girl summer right now because I had a huge burger for dinner. RIP climate, sorry about animal husbandry and the climate. We're all going to be having hot girl summer soon. But I'm very excited to bring up some of our comedians. So first off, we have this amazing comedian from Austin. He has the Lonely Man's podcast, which has a beautiful logo, which it looks like OnlyFans, but it's Lonely Man's, and like Lonely Man's love OnlyFans, of course, right? Please give it up for Paul Cyphers.
Hello. Yes, our logo is done by Brianna Woodward. She's very talented if anyone needs anything done. So when I messaged you, you sent out a message to do the show, and I was drunk and also a day after getting my second vaccine shot. So I was very out of it. And I was like, I'll do that. And then I remember this morning that I'm not a storytelling comedian at all, actually. I don't think I've ever said a true thing about myself on stage. I like to put up a good wall between me and the audience. But I figured I would try to write one today. I'm house sitting and watching a hedgehog at my friend's house for a week or two. If anyone's thinking if they want to get a hedgehog as a pet, don't. It's the worst pet ever. Every time you show it love, it just hurts you. So now I know how a lot of my exes probably feel. But cool. Let's do this. Hot Girl Summer. I tried to rack my brain. I remembered one particular event that happened on the last day of 7th grade. I was on the ride home, and I was thinking about the upcoming summer. I was very excited about it. A couple of things had happened. One, I graduated 7th grade, and in my town, 8th graders go to high school. So I was about to be a high school student. I remember a few weeks prior, my mother had bought me a Motorola Razr phone, which I was very excited about. It felt pretty cool. And then on top of all that, a girl who was a year older than me, we would occasionally make out, and she would let me touch her breasts occasionally, which I was very excited about. So I really was on top of the world. I was getting ready to have the summer of all summers. I got home, I got on my bike, which was an old mongoose where the brakes had stopped working, which will be very important later in the story. But I would use my feet to slow myself down. I would just kind of like, burn the bottom of my soles. And I went to my friends, John and Nick. They were 2 brothers that lived down the street from me. And in the same neighborhood as the young lady who would let me touch her breasts, coincidentally. But I went to their house, and we decided to go to the beach. We're going to start our hot girl summer off by going to this lake down the street from our house. And Nick took his own bike, and then I said, John, why don't you hop on the pegs of my bike? Now, I'm sure some people remember pegs. Pegs were invented for BMX riders to do tricks on, but I was a chubby, out of shape young boy, so basically they were used to transport people around. I mean, as if it wasn't a death trap enough, there was no brakes, and I was throwing on double the weight onto the bike, and we headed out to the beach on this death trap that I had. On the way to the beach, there was a big hill, and I started going down the hill. I put my feet down to slow down, and what 7th grade turning into 8th grade me failed to realize that with double the weight, I was not able to slow down the bike very well. So I just kind of started panicking. I have a big anxiety issues, always have. And I yelled to John, "Oh, jump off the bike! I can't.
Oh no.
I can't slow down." Which probably just came off as like, "Bah!" And John was like, "What? What did you say?" And I said, "Jump off the bike." And he's like, "What?" And now we're flying down the hill. We're going incredibly fast. And I yell, "Jump off the bike." And John jumps off the bike. And the weight distribution as we're going this fast causes me to go into what is known as a tumble. I don't know if you're familiar with a tumble. And you probably can't tell in this camera angle. I'm a very top-heavy person. I have very skinny legs and a very large torso. I'm sort of like a Humpty Dumpty type of figure. So when I go into a tumble, it's especially violent. It gets violent very quickly. So I had a great fall, and I stumbled over and over again, and came to a stop. And I do remember like feeling okay. Like my arm kind of like was burnt, but I felt okay. Pieces of my Motorola Razr were now strewn about all around me.
Oh no.
And I could hear John crying in pain. So I turned over to sort of look at the situation, and Nick, our other friend who was following behind us, ran down the hill, like, got off his bike and started yelling, "I saw the whole thing. I saw the whole thing." Stopped, looked at my leg, like turned pale as a ghost, and then just turned around and started running away with 0 words, no yelling, not even much of an expression, just simply turned away and started running away from me in the quickest way possible. So I looked down at my leg, and on my kneecap, it appears if I had been bitten by a shark, is the only way I can describe the wound.
Oh no.
So I fall back, and I'm looking at this guy. I'm in shock. And the next thing I remember is the voice of a man. Based on where I lived, I'm guessing the man was probably Brazilian or Portuguese, but for some reason, whenever I remember the story in my head, he is Italian. He has a very strong accent. And it's not even, I know it's not even a real memory, because in my brain, he's like, sounds like one of the Mario brothers in my head. But some man with a very thick accent ran over and went, "Oh, what's the matter over here? What's going on over here?"
Oh no.
And he saw my leg, and he was like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "Should I call 911? And I had him call 911. I had him call my dad. At this point, much of the neighborhood got there before the ambulance did, including the young lady whose breasts I had touched a few times. Of course, I was sobbing and crying, but then when her and my dad arrived, I was like, "Dad, I'm fine. Gosh." And I turned to the kid, and they brought me to the hospital, and I was just like, I can't believe my whole summer's ruined. My leg's probably messed up. I ended up having no structural damage in my leg. Just so I was beaten and battered a little bit. Spent a day in the hospital, went home, was on the couch for a month. Next time I saw that young lady, she was now with John, the kid who jumped off the back of my bike. But my mother did buy me a brand new Motorola Razr, so I guess it all turned out good. That is my Hot Girl Summer story. So
thank you so much, Paul. Let's give it up for Paul. His Hot Girl Summer. Paul, that was a delightfully 2005 story.
Yeah.
Like, just the imagery of the Motorola Razr breaking. Did it, so like the top of it separated from the bottom, right?
Yeah, it was just in pieces. I don't know how I wasn't injured worse. We were going really, really fast on the bike.
Yeah.
So that's why I was pretty impressed that I survived. But yeah, it was just smashed on the ground, and I was really excited. It was like my first cell phone. Those things were nice too.
Yeah, they were. I loved the satisfying when you were mad at someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were yeah. I had one my first year of college because my mom, I never had new phones because my mom was always the type of mom that was like, "Okay, we'll just get the new phones when they let us get the upgrade." And of course those phones were like a year and a half, 2 years out. So I had a Motorola Razr my first year of college, and I dropped it. It was on its last leg when I was entering college. I dropped it when I was hanging out with some of my friends in New York City, on the ground, and it split in two, and the screen just completely got messed up. And I'm still sad about it. I'm still sad. That was a nice ass phone. I love the nostalgia. I love the like millennial nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like my whole act right now is Nintendo 64 and Sonic the Hedgehog. Those are all the jokes I've been writing. I have a full hour on 90s nostalgia right now.
Yeah, nostalgia's good and fun. Like, look, the world isn't getting better, so let's like just ignore it and go into the past, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. And coming up next, our next performer. She has lots of shows in New York City. She is hilarious. She has a weekly show on Tuesdays at the Comedy Hub Live Network on twitch.com. She also has starting to do in-person stuff at NYC. You can look at her website. Please give it up for Zilla Vodness.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, guys, for having me today. If you are wondering, all of these books are in fact stolen. Every single one. They're real, but I stole them all. My name is Zilla. I'm from New York, if you can't tell from my butchery of the English language. I am also going to tell a high school story, except I'm a little older. This is a story. It starts in 1999 and ends in the year 2000, because we were that futuristic class of 2000. But let me tell you about a very hot girl summer I had. I was always a chubby kid, and while I enjoyed my time as I didn't really feel any way about it until I got to high school. And then, I was that awkward kid, late bloomer. And then one day my aunt did me a solid and gave me food poisoning. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional, and I don't recommend this to anyone for weight loss, but essentially we had this one religious auntie, and we used to have to go visit her once a year, and one year I go visit her, and she makes chicken soup, but from a place called the vivero. And the vivero is the Spanish word that means you getting a live chicken. That means you walking into the spot, and you gonna be like, I'm gonna kill that one, and then they yoke him, and you take him home, and you cook him. So I eat this chicken soup, get very sick, immediately drop a bunch of weight, and it made me reevaluate a couple of my decisions. So that whole summer between junior and senior year, I'm working now. I don't know if y'all are hip to Gilad. Gilad was this Israeli dude who used to do like jumping jacks, and he was like mad brolic. You could see he used to be on ESPN like very early in the morning. I would get up and do my little aerobics. I got, nicey nice, cutie cute, whatever. Go back to school, and the most bizarre thing happens. I learned so much about humanity because people treated me 100 times better. In hindsight, it was terrifying, but then I was excited. I was a senior. Things were different. People roll up to me and be like, you new here? I'm like, bitch, I've been here for like all this time. What is wrong with you? We took math. They put us together on the group project. You wildin', like just people. It was like brand new, right? And I caught the eye of a kid in my creative writing class. He was a white rapper. There's other descriptors, but like white rapper kind of nail it, right? We bonded because I would write like super emo stuff in my creative writing class. And then he'd be like, because a white rapper always going to talk to you like that. He'd be like, I really like what you wrote today, and he used to call me sis and like, so we take up a little relationship of sorts, but it's definitely me just kind of essentially really hoping that maybe something will come of it because I'm still insecure, and him being this really popular white rapper, which, believe me, was a thing in 2000. So he realizes after all this time we're hanging out together, he asked me to the prom. And of course I was super excited. Now I knew it was as friends, but I kind of hoped, maybe something else would happen. And it was very nice. And he would write me little letters, back in the day, pre-email shit, And about a week before the prom, he calls me to tell me that he's changed his mind because he would like to take a girl named Aisha. Now, I was heartbroken. I wasn't heartbroken about it being Aisha. I just was upset it wasn't me. So I was very, very upset, and I took it incredibly hard. But I decided that I was going to have another hot girl summer. So what do? I get this beautiful iridescent purple dress. That's right, year 2000 represent. I look like I was in a spaceship. It was purple head to toe, had a big bottom and shit, right? I went and got my hair done. I got the twist done, you know, the little twist in the Dominican hair salon in New York. What? I had hair down to my waist. They curled all of it. It took hours. It was crazy, right? And I go to prom with my very good friend, Kari Conte. Now, I got to cover up her face because, you know, like Hippocratic Oath or whatever that is. But I don't know if you can see. Look at my iridescent. And then Kari came through. And the most magical thing happened. We had the best time at prom. Like, through the roof. You know, I avoided the guy. All of my homegirls who went and took their boyfriends, they was mad because either their boyfriend didn't look perfect or their boyfriend wasn't paying them attention or their boyfriend didn't want to dance. But me and Kati, we just tore it up. You know what I mean? That was when Return of the Mac came out, year 2000 prom. What? We were like, yo, nah. You know, we was into it, dancing to Return of the Mac, having a grand old time. And as I'm leaving the prom, this young man looks at me and he says, I really regret not taking you. And I was like, psh, whatever. But what was crazy is it still bothered me. It was still a sticking point. Because, you know, you get older and you see people and they have their prom pictures and they went with their date or whatever junk. And like I was like, man, he asked me, then unasked me. How embarrassing. People knew. And then yesterday I got an email. Baby, 21, count them, 21 years later, in my inbox yesterday, he is facing 37 years for child pornography.
Whoa.
You could search it, girl. Look right now on Google. If you just put 37 years child pornography USA, it's going to come up. This was in the papers yesterday.
Oh my God.
I just have to tell you, not only did I dodge a bullet, but I will never, ever feel bad about not being taken to the prom by him ever again. And we're going to have another hot girl summer in them dodge bullets. All right. We're going to just enjoy this year because, oh my God, I have this beautiful picture with Kati. And I would have had to burn the other pictures. But anyway, my name's Zilla. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Kendra.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that story. So yeah, if you didn't get a chance to go to prom with like the person you wanted to go to prom with, maybe they have child porn and you actually
maybe it's meant to be. I'm an atheist, so I'm not like it's God's plan. No, baby. It's just things will work out in the end. Is what 21 years, and it's not come up as a terrible story. And what's wild, Kendra, someone sent it to me right before I went on stage yesterday. So you know my set yesterday was like rickety crickety because I was like, oh my God, this is in my brain now. So yeah.
Wow. Wait, yeah, that is wild. Holy shit.
Even better, my favorite part of the whole thing is first and foremost, it's terrible because there are victims and this is terrible. Once again, you could Google the story. So that's not funny at all. But the person who took great joy in sending me that email with this information was a guy who had a crush on me in high school. So he was like, ha ha, bitch, you were in love with this dude. Look at what he up to now. So everybody got a little bit of joy apparently from this.
And like in your defense, you didn't know that at that time.
No, at the time, I guess, you know, what he was doing was appropriate because he was the age.
Yes,
but
yeah.
You know,
yeah. And, yeah, God, man. Whew, man, I am so glad you are here and not like in some creep's basement that you went to prom with in high school. Yeah, let's give it up for Zilla Vodness for avoiding
Sorry to stink the place up with
no, you
vibes.
Didn't. That was honestly a great story. I am always so fascinated at those like weird near misses where it's like, oh, if I like got into this Uber, then like the Uber driver would have like tried to kidnap me. Like those like small coincidences, you know what I mean? They just blow my mind. It's just like what, like, wow. This is why you don't trust white rappers, though. That is what I will say. Eminem, you're on thin ice.
We got our eyes on you, Em.
All right, coming up next, I'm very excited to bring up this next person who has no future plans. Please give it up for Rod Ferguson.
Hey everybody! So I'm so excited to be here. This is my second Zoom show, and I really feel like I'm building momentum. So my story also, has a bit of high school in it, and I grew up in Bermuda, which wasn't a very gay-friendly place in the 90s, I remember in 7th grade, in PE class, in the changing rooms, a classmate actually threatened me with a glass bottle, and over the suspicion that I might be gay. And I was not really that bothered by this because I was too naive to really understand the nature of the threat. Like, I didn't understand that like the next step in the process is to break the bottle and therefore be threatening me with a glass that could cut me. I was just like, this is a pretty ineffective weapon to choose. So fast forward a year, and I remember precisely when I knew that I would never have a hot girl summer. Because I'm in that same changing room, and suddenly I was intrigued by what I saw. It was not the first time I'd seen naked classmates, but it was the first time it mattered to me what I was seeing. It was a hormonal awakening, and so I went home and I drew what I'd seen so that I wouldn't forget. That was my first dick pic. And the person of interest happened to be a Black Bermudian, which for any of my classmates who are listening, that narrows it down to only 2 people because of systemic racism. But the point is that I felt a need to use colored pencil in my drawing, which is not a pun. But I, and I'm not a great artist. So this picture is like my entire canon as a sketch artist. But I needed this picture because this is 3 years before the internet became a thing. And all I have is like the Encyclopedia Britannica and a thesaurus. And so I looked up every synonym for, a gentleman's member. And I know them all, but I'm not going to go into that. But besides that, the only thing that I had, to work with was perving on my classmates. And I was like a fox in the proverbial hen house, if all of the hens were calling me faggot. But actually, they had this rule. They weren't calling me faggot at that moment because they had a rule of no talking in the changing room, which actually just made things kind of hotter. I mean, really. So then they're watching me to make sure I'm not watching them, which I was. But I was very carefully because I don't want to be threatened again with a bottle that's intact. So I fast forward, to college, and in my first year, I developed a real crush on a guy, and I was like, oh crap, this means I'm definitely gay. But I did not want to be. So I tried to kill myself, but I did it in a very gay way. I was belting show tunes in a snowstorm in New Hampshire. I exaggerate. It was more like flurries, but that behavior by itself is not normally fatal. But I was also popping, 2 bottles worth of Tylenol between songs. So it didn't work. So I went to my academic advisor, and her name's Paola Rizzoli. And she said, and I said, she's Italian, and I didn't finish any of my, assignments. So I was like, I didn't do any of my homework. I took a lot of Tylenol this weekend. And she said, Rod, you're depressed. Tylenol does not work for depression. So I love her. So anyway, that's just my favorite part of the suicide story. But I did have a cognitive behavioral therapist who said, if you're going to kill yourself over being gay, why not try it first? So, ask your doctor if gay sex is right for you. Because it did the trick. So, fast forward a few more years, and for the big reveal that the only hot girl in this story is me, because I developed an alter ego drag character named Miss Rhonda Bout. She's from the South and she gets around. But that's how gay I've become. I now do drag. But not like at Halloween. I entered a pageant and I won a title. And it's been downhill from there. So I did a couple comedy for a couple of years in Boston before leaving for New York to train to become an actor. So now between Rhonda and comedy and acting, I'm juggling 3 failed careers. And, but I had to take a break from them all because in Bermuda, they were doing stuff with the law where like same-sex marriage became legal by the court system. And then there was like the legislature took it away. And then basically I ended up being the person suing the government to make it legal again. And that's of course another story. But the highlight of that story is that our fundraisers tried to get like important people to like raise awareness of this. And so they got Ellen DeGeneres to tweet a link to the fundraiser for this lawsuit of mine. And so like, but she tweets and she's like, Bermuda just banned gay marriage. Guess I'm canceling my trip. Anyone else? So she's like, she or staff members like, let's boycott Bermuda. And so then I'm like being asked by the Royal Gazette, the news in Bermuda, what do you think of Ellen's tweet? What's your comment on Ellen's tweet? And I'm just like, I agree with her, but I can't say that because then people are going to hate me in Bermuda. So I'm just like, yeah, I don't support boycotting Bermuda, but I do love Ellen. This is before she was evil. So anyway, so the lawsuit is still happening. I'm going to find out the final result sometime this in the next couple months. But during all of this, Bermuda had never had a pride before, and so we kind of, because of this lawsuit and just, we were kind of like, this is about time. Maybe the reason we keep getting our rights stepped on is that nobody knows we're here. So basically, someone else organized Bermuda Pride, and it was our first ever. And Bermuda's obviously still not super happy about gay people, and so we were like, well, what's the theme gonna be? And I was like, how about please don't kill us? Because, and like, I thought I was joking at the time, I was, but then on social media leading up to the Pride, there were threats of violence on social media. And so because I'm now a celebrity, the Bermuda News, reaches out to me to see if I'll comment on threats of violence. And I was actually leaving the island the following morning, so I didn't really have much time, but if anyone wanted to fight me, I would be back in time for Bermuda Pride. But no, I promised I was not going to start any violence. But the night before Bermuda Pride, my sister and I, we drive by the park that it's going to happen, and there was a protest of basically a bunch of predominantly Black Bermudian churchgoers who were clapping and singing "In the name of Jesus," da 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 da. You know, I don't know all of it, but I was like, this really sucks when your opponents are that musically gifted. It's just not fair. You know, if we just gave them a different song and put them in the parade, it would have worked out well. So then we actually had the parade, and there wasn't any violence. There was actually 6,000 people, you know, which is 10% of Bermuda's population, and it turned out to be like one of the best, most transformative experiences I've ever had, because like my whole life, a number of people came up to me that day and they were like, I never thought I'd see this day in my lifetime in Bermuda. And I was like, and I had chills because I never thought I'd see that day either. So this is the story of what it's like to have been gay in Bermuda over time. Sorry, no hot girls.
Thank you so much, Rod. That's okay that there were no hot girl summers, or hot girls in the story. Like I said, hot girl summer is whatever you want it to be. If your hot girl summer is about thinking about a hot guy's dick, that is fine. All right. It's whatever you want it to be. So thank you so much for sharing. That was really great. That was really awesome. I'm sorry that Ellen, if this story happened right now, no one would have wanted to hear from Ellen, but like at that time, she was very influential in making sure that like gay rights was kind of promoted more in Bermuda. So just as an aside, some people do have their Venmos. I highly encourage anyone watching, whether you're watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, wherever, to give us money through the Venmo, because it's hard. Doing comedy is hard. There's where things aren't going well. If you have someone, Rob is Rob, I just noticed that you were shaking your head. But
just to Gary, I thought it was a weird time for him to put his own Venmo into the chat, which is what he did.
Well, Gary's is Gipper 2020. If only I could see that, but no, I said it. Please
you
give us
mind
money.
saying it a couple more times?
What'd you say?
You mind saying it just a couple more times?
Gipper 2020, Gipper 2020.
Thank
Gipper
you.
2020. Of course. Cool. Yeah. So coming up next, so we had our kind of, I guess, like not Boston-based section of the show. And now we have our Boston-based section of our show. Our next three performers all live in the same apartment. I'm not going to tell you where because I do not want them to get stalked. But coming up next for our first of this block, we have the woman who is the most beautiful woman in Jamaica Plain, which is not where her apartment is, just so you know. That is Angela Sawyer. Please give it up for Angela Sawyer.
Hi, it's very nice to talk to you. Thank you. Instead of coming to our apartment to attack us, just you can call me on the phone and text me instead. It's 857-413-0154. Just text me your attacks and I'll take them. That's fine. Okay, Hot Girl Summer is I'm a middle-aged fat lady with gray hair and social anxiety. Basically, I'm just like an artsy witch. So Hot Girl Summer is a tough topic for me. And truthfully, most of the time when I think about hot girls, I just think about somebody who wants to trick me. You know, I just think like pretty girls are there to like trip me as I'm walking down the street. And that's not totally true. But in their defense, I have to say the hottest girl, the person with the best hot girl behavior that I've ever known was one of my roommates who happened to have been a guy, and he was a drummer. He was a jazz drummer, and I lived with him in the early 1990s, and he was amazing. His name is Django. Maybe the most hot girl thing Django ever did. At one point, everyone in the house had their bicycles stolen. And we were all like, we're poor. That's what happens. And we bought new bicycles, or we got new bicycles. And maybe, and that was in the fall. And then the next summer, one day, Django went missing for a couple of days. He just disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him. And then he finally walked back into the apartment. We're all like, "Where have you been? What the hell? Are you okay? What happened?" And he was like, "Oh, I had found my bike." And we were like, What happened?" And he was like, "Well, I was walking down the street, walking to a job that I got fired from because I didn't go for 2 days. But I was walking to that job and I saw a guy riding my bike. So I ran after him. And I ran after him and was just yelling at the guy, like, "Hey, that's my bike. That's my bike. Somebody stole it. You're on my bike." And the guy got to a stoplight and stopped, and Django ran up to him, all out of breath, and was like, "Hey, man, you're riding my bike. It was stolen from me. We got to do something." And the guy just looked at him and light turned green, and he pedaled off. And Django chased him. And the guy started to get tired, and so did Django. So they had this increasingly slower and slower chase. And Django wouldn't give up, and the bike thief or owner rode like 3 towns away. He rode like 25 miles out of town. We're in Boston proper, and he rode to Lexington. So they just chased all the way the fuck out of town, slowly, little by little by little, slower and slower and slower. Finally, the guy clearly just couldn't ride anymore. And Django was basically just shuffling behind him. And he dropped the bike in the street and got off. And Django was like, "Thank you, man. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not here to cause you trouble. I just, somebody stole my bike and I can't afford to buy another one. And I really need to get it back so I can get to work and stuff." And then the guy walked right up to Django and punched him. And he fell unconscious into the street, and the guy rode away. And when Django woke up, he didn't know where he was. So it took him a day and a half to come home.
Oh my God.
Very hot girl summer moment for him. This same jazz drummer, who's a great dude, who I adore deeply, but it will not sound like it whenever I tell a story about him. He a couple months after that, he decided he was really into he was into Zen and crystals and spirituality, which is fine. But he would sometimes get too excited about it. Like, for a while, he decided that it would be really healthy if he ate carrots. So he stopped eating all of the other foods and stopped drinking water and only ingested carrots. And he didn't tell anybody he was going to do this. He just did it because that's how you run your life. And after a couple months, people were like, "Django, you look kind of tan. Are you?" He turned orange. He turned like bright orange. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling that well. I think I should eat more carrots." So he continued. And then one night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and there was this horrible, like, moaning noise in the house. And I was like, "Well, it's not haunted. I should check it out." And I went into the bathroom, and we were poor and the house was fucked up. So in our bathroom, there was a part of the floor that had worn through, and you could like see into the apartment below. And instead of fixing it, we just put a bath mat over that part of the floor because we couldn't get our landlord to come fix it. We were too lazy to do anything about it. So we just put a bath mat over there. And Django was lying on the bathroom floor, and the bath mat was away somewhere, and he was just yelling into the hole, like, "Help me." And I was like, "Hello, I'm right here. What can I do for you?" And he's like, "I feel terrible. Something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. I need help." So I was like, "Do you want an ambulance or do you want me to put you in a taxi?" Because that's a big choice when you have no money. And he was like, "No, this is really bad. I need an ambulance." So I called an ambulance, and they came, and I rode with him, and I went to the hospital and waited up all night. And in the morning, stayed up all night, hoping that he would be okay. In the morning, the doctor shook me awake in a chair, and I was like, "Oh, is Django okay?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, he's fine. We sent him home like 3 hours ago. he just needed water. He just didn't he didn't take in any water for a few months and just ate carrots. So we told him to eat something else. You should go home. And then maybe the final thing that happened, there were lots of other little things, but the most difficult one was when Django, he got very upset and he threatened to karate fight me to death. So it all started because he decided that he could learn Zen from pigeons, which I don't see why they wouldn't be good teachers. Nonverbal learning is real. But his technique was he just decided to open his windows of his room up on the 3rd floor and not close them and wish the pigeons to come and live in his room with him. And I was like, there's no way that's going to work, so no problem. But it did work. And very soon, our roommate was living with like 30 pigeons. And that is when this was in the early and mid 1990s. So like at first, when the stories began, there was no internet, and it sort of came along and got into our house as this happened. So the very first thing that I ever looked up on the internet on Alta Vista, the pre-Google, was, can you die from hanging around pigeons? And it turns out that you can. There's a real disease called pigeon lung. It's a very real thing. Apparently, pigeon poop's very bad for your breathing. It's just not good for you. And so when people keep pigeons, that's why they keep them in weird little houses things outside, because you're not supposed to live in the same house with them. So I talked to my roommates and I was like, hey, it's really like unhealthy that we have 30 pigeons. I'm okay with the idea, but like it's super bad for people and bad for Django to be living with 30 pigeons in his room. And they were like, Jesus, Angela, you're so intolerant. I was like, I know, but I'm really just trying to make sure he doesn't die from the pigeons. And they were like, well, it's your problem. You tell him. So I was like, okay, I'll tell him. And I sat him down and I was like, hey, I know that you're getting a lot out of this, and I'm not here to tell you that you're not, but I think you could get really sick from this. And he was like, fuck you. And he left. And he was very anxious that I had told him about this. I didn't yell at him, but he felt like I was really coming down on him, which I understand. So he didn't come home for a couple weeks, and he started hanging out with a guy named John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was a guy who just called himself that, and didn't wear like Jesus clothes. He just wore like jeans and shirts, and he had a big Labrador retriever that he took with him everywhere he went. And his thing, instead of having a job, what he did was he would go out into the middle of the street every day and direct traffic. And that was his thing. He would just direct the traffic that was already going, and which, he found something that he liked, and it was working fine for him. So he started, after he started hanging out with Django, John the Baptist decided that he could like clean the vibes of our house. He could like make our house have a less anxious vibe by directing traffic right in front of it. And the only problem with that is that we lived directly across the street from a fire station. And a Somerville fire station is just not staffed by people who want to hang out with John the Baptist. There were no Trump voters then, but that's who was there. So they got very upset that John the Baptist was directing traffic in front of their fire station all day, and thought it was a personal insult to them. So they would come out of the station and yell at him, and then John the Baptist, to get away from them, would run into our house. And sometimes when I tell people that, they're like, why didn't you lock your door? And that is because our doors didn't shut, because we had a shitty house. So he would run into our house with his, and I would be like, oh, hey, a dog is here. That's great. It was always nice to see him. John the Baptist was always nice. And I was like, no problem. But eventually the firefighters figured it out. And so they followed him into our house, and they would yell at us. And after a bunch of the times when they yelled at us, my roommates were like, Angela, you caused this whole problem with your horrible intolerance. And I was like, I know, I'm really sorry. And they were like, you have to figure out how to get Django to move out now because we can't handle a bunch of firefighters coming here every day yelling at John the Baptist. And I was like, okay, I will. So I sat Django down and he was like, look, the last time you talked to me, you were really terrible. And also I found out that you threw away the crystals in the plants that I've been keeping on the porch. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It's just that the porch fell off the back of the house. I didn't throw them away. Our house is a pile of shit. I didn't intentionally throw away your crystals. They were in dead plants for several years, but I still didn't do it. It's literally the house fell apart and the porch dissembled itself. And he was like, it's still your fault. And I was like, I know, but now I think unfortunately you have to move because we can't handle having the firemen here all the time. And he was like, I'm going to karate fight you to death. And that is when I realized that I had like 120 pounds on Django. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. You want to karate fight me? I probably won't die. So just bring it on. It'll be all right. And he, set up and I laughed. I didn't mean to laugh at him, but it was very funny that he was like ready to go at it. Yeah, I was very, very serious about it. And I was like, I'll take my glasses off, I guess. I won't see it coming. And then instead of karate fighting me, he just left. And so we called around and we found some friends where he could go stay, where he wouldn't get into trouble. And he turned out fine. And actually, everything worked out for the best. And that is the hottest girl activity that I can think of that could happen. Every hot girl I've ever seen who gets mad at a Starbucks employee and starts throwing things and freaking out, all that happens is they're like, I'm so sorry. And then it's all fine. So that's my story of that hot girl summer. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Angela. Angela, you have the most fascinating stories about your life and you have so much knowledge. I did not know that hanging around pigeons could kill you, but now I do because you've lived with crazy people. I feel like I've gathered knowledge from you living with crazy people. Just absolutely.
I think the easiest way to get good stories is to be very poor, make bad decisions, and then don't die. Those are the 3 tricks. 3 big tricks.
Is Django okay now? Is he?
Django is great. Django is totally lovely, and he still plays jazz drums. And still, I see him sometimes at a local bar playing music, and he's doing really good. And I don't know what happened to John the Baptist, but I think hopefully he's fine too.
Okay. I love that the doctor's advice for Django was like, hydrate yourself and eat another thing. Like, imagine that's the most expensive that's the most expensive trip for someone to tell you, try eating not carrots, anything else.
I'm sure that bill didn't get paid, so it was free.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow. Amazing. Man, I wish I had the cojones to just not pay the hospital. I'd be so afraid. All right. Coming up next in this JP apartment set, we have very hilarious guy. He is being fake fanned by his roommate right now.
He doesn't live there. He's just in the building.
He's okay.
Kind of like a John the Baptist type.
Okay. Now I see. Please give it up for Rob Crean.
Hey. So yeah, Hot Girl Summer. Hot Girl Summer was like a couple summers ago. I remember it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I spent a lot of time with hot girls, which is cool. Definitely much prefer a Hot Girl Summer to a feverish, dry cough girl summer. Did not like that very much. So lately, there's been a lot of talk about trans people playing sports, and I think we can all agree that if there's any topic I'm less qualified to talk about than trans issues, it's sports. And so I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it occurs to me that, like, is it possible that the issue is that splitting people up based on gender for sports was never a good idea. Because I hate sports. I hate sports. And I think if I were to try and pinpoint why I hate sports, I think it's because I was forced to play them with people twice my size because we happen to have the same genitals. And lately, I've been babysitting, and I've been playing basketball games with 11-year-old kids. I say basketball games because we're not playing basketball. We're playing. I'm not like saying like sports ball. We're playing like games like pig and horse, except for we come up with our own words because I'm not a sports guy. So for me, the fun part of sports is coming up with a different word. To me, sports is like basically improv. But yeah, so I've been playing basketball with 11-year-old boys, and I am the best. I am better than there's two of them, and then there's a younger kid, and I am the best of all four of us. I am the best at basketball, but like definitely in the same league. Like I'm not like, I don't win every game, but I win like a decent percentage of the games. I've never liked sports, and I do think it's because of the way that it was broken up, but I did learn stuff in sports. I learned when I was a kid, I was playing t-ball, which is a game like baseball, but like way easier. Because you're swinging a bat at a ball that is stationary atop a pole. And I would strike out at t-ball. I would swing 3 times and not hit the ball, which was not moving. And they don't as with kids, they don't just they don't actually strike you out. They're not like, they don't see a kid fail that badly and just go, "You're out of here." They let you walk to first base. But one time I was playing t-ball, and I guess I just must have closed my eyes just tight enough that I connected with the ball. I hit the ball. I could not believe it. I was so excited. I just took off running as fast as I could towards third base. And my mother was in the bleachers with my sister, and one of the other parents sitting near them turned to another parent and said, "Oh my God, can you imagine being that boy's parents? That would be so embarrassing." And my mother looked at my sister and went, and then after the game was over, my mother saw me on the field and was like, "Come on," and then just took off towards the car, making sure to stay 20 feet away from me the whole way back. I was trying to catch up, but I wasn't athletic. But so I learned that was the first thing I learned, was that a mother's love is not unconditional. The second thing I learned was when I was in high school, I went to a weird high school where the junior high and the high school were split 3 grades and 3 grades, or middle school. So middle school was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then high school was 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So for phys ed requirements, you had to take phys ed both years of middle school, 7th and 8th grade, and 2 years of high school. So everyone took it the first 2 years, which meant that when I was a freshman, I was in a gym class with like 100 kids. And that was where I really learned about having to play with boys. Because really, that's like when boys start to become men. And I never did. I remained a boy. I mean, like, I had a beard, but I was a small boy with a beard. I never got any taller or anything. But then when I was a sophomore, all of a sudden, you're now in a school where there are 3 grades and only 1 grade has to take gym. So every gym class was like 8 people. So I was in a gym class with 8 people, and they for gym class, they required that you had sneakers, but I didn't have sneakers because I was a cool punk rocker. was a cool punk rocker, I wore combat boots because I was cool punk rocker. And so first day of school, the gym teacher said, "You got to get sneakers." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then she said that same thing to me every day for 3 months. "You got to get sneakers." And I would say, "Oh, okay." And then she started saying stuff like, "If you don't get sneakers this week, I'm going to fail you for the year." And I would say, "Oh, okay." And then she would say stuff like, "If you don't get sneakers tomorrow, I'm going to fail you for the year." And I would say, "Oh, okay." But I never got sneakers. And finally, after her saying that if I didn't get sneakers by tomorrow, she was going to fail me for the year, maybe her 10th time, she said, "I keep saying this and I keep letting you slide, but if you don't have sneakers tomorrow, I'm going to fail you for the year." And I said, okay, I will get sneakers. So the next day, as I'm getting dressed for gym, my friend Kevin comes up to me and he says, "Did you get sneakers?" And I said, I forgot to get sneakers. And he said, "You're going to fail gym for the year." And I said, what am I going to do? So I just I thought about it for a minute, and I went to my bag and I took out a pair of scissors and a piece of paper and some tape. And I just cut a white Nike swoosh out of paper. And then I taped it to my boots. And that worked. And the thing is, like, what I could have done that every day. Every day I could have cut a new Nike swoosh out, got some new tape and put it on my boots. Probably would have been fine. But I didn't. What I did was I just made those 2 Nike swooshes, one for each shoe. And after class, I would take them off of my shoe and I would put them on the inside of a locker. And then the next day I would take them off and put them back on my boots. That was all I did. And then I got away with it for months until one day I was playing a basketball game. And I'm not saying that to say like sports ball. I mean, it was like the game Peg, except we didn't call it Peg. We would make up our own words because we were creative kids and we treated sports like improv. So I was playing a basketball game and I jumped to shoot a ball, and when I landed, the swoosh just fell off of my boot, and the gym teacher looked at me and said, "Hey!" And all of a sudden I could see she realized that for months, she realized that I had tricked, and she just said, "You have to get shoes tomorrow." And that's when I learned that if you can trick someone well enough, they'll forgive you, because it was a pretty good trick. So those are the 2 things that I learned in sports. Thanks so much.
Woo! Let's keep it going for Rob Crean, giving his sports knowledge. Amazing, very important knowledge. I could wear combat boots on a basketball court. That's what I've learned. I learned so much from the show every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up next, we have our final performer for the night. He is also a performer. I don't think he told me. He's sitting right next to Rob. Please give it up for Gary Peterson. Woo!
Thank you, everybody. This is gonna go all over the place. Let's take a ride through my brain. Has anyone ever started anything good? Let's take a and then that was the original Martin Luther King Jr. intro. Let's take a ride through my brain. It's very hot in this room. I was a romantic, I thought, with one person, and then I rethought about it and realized that I had bipolar disorder. And I would project these super weird things. I was in high school. I think it was 11th grade. My first girlfriend, I wouldn't buy her flowers or anything like that. I didn't have any money, so I would write her essays on what she meant to me, like Thomas Paine's Common Sense style essays. Perhaps the spirit of love shall be free. There was a lot of that crap that I did to her, and I had access to a motorcycle, and I could ride it, and she was forbid on the motorcycle, so it just made it hotter. And I was like, "Do you want to go for a ride?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so I thought it would be a really, really romantic ride. Drive from Weymouth, Massachusetts to Cape Cod, the canal, eat fish, turn around, drive back. That's it. And I had mowed my grandmother's lawn, so I was rolling in it. We get on the motorcycle in Weymouth, Massachusetts. The route is get on the highway for 40 minutes. Get off the highway in 40 minutes. There's any fish place near. I went from Weymouth, Massachusetts to Cape Cod, and instead of going, "Oh, I'll just go back the way I came," I was like, "Let's just take a ride, man. It's fucking your knees the breeze, babe." And I went 86 miles in a sort of hook like this to Franklin, Massachusetts from 495, which made this journey so long that a Honda motorcycle ran out of gas, which is nearly impossible to do. It means like we had traveled roughly 500 miles in wandering fashion, and we were wearing sunglasses, and we had no sunscreen. So by the time we got to Franklin, and I said, "How far are we from Weymouth?" And he was like, "Where?" I was like, I go, "South towards the Cape, maybe." And he goes, "That way." And so we were able to get through rush hour traffic. It was a nightmare. Get home. Hillary's mother was a little protective. She left 17 voice messages that were a study into madness, because
Record. All right, I'm recording this part. You want to sit in this little chair?
Sure, I'll sit in the tiny chair. Ta-da!
This is the best.
when Angela
Perfect way to end.
asked me,
Yeah, this might be the best.
You got this chair. I'll sit in this chair.
You sure?
By the end of the show, we're all going to be in that space.
when Angela asked me to do this show, I was really excited. I was like, this is where I'll tell the story of where my love died and came back. And now I'm feeling I'm being haunted by the show's ideas in my head. All right. I've tried to speak, and then it's cut out several times.
Let's try it again. It is, I see like huge as bolts of lightning over in Eastie, but try your best.
Do you guys think this has anything to do with that church I ran through earlier with a monster truck?
Yeah, this is probably God smiting you.
That's so weird. Just after Ramadan, my head is just kind of everywhere. You know, the holidays get me.
Dark.
Why are you doing that?
It'll look cool when the lightning goes off. What am I ruining the flow?
Let's just talk about how much I hate Rob. Because if Angela, Rob, and I are the Three Stooges, Rob is my Larry, where everything he says is just in that voice of like, I turned the lights off so I can see the lightning. It just bothers me where I want to be like, oh,
Gary.
I put my shorts on and my boxes are longer than them. All right. We left where we left off.
Phone messages.
Phone messages. Okay. Hillary's mom's voice messages on our home answering message machine started with, Hillary, this is your mother. Call me back. And number 17 was just her going, ah! And slamming the phone. Her mother was also bipolar. And she related my love of comedy because she used to go on stage and do an All in the Family Edith Bunker impression, which apparently was dead on. And I respect that. So I couldn't bring their daughter back on a motorcycle. I could only think of going down the next house was where my grandparents lived. My grandfather was home, luckily, and I said, can you drive my girlfriend home because her mother is really mad? And he goes, sure. And we get in the car and we get to her house down the street. As we're getting there, I had looked in the mirror and our faces are just red. They're all red except two little sunglasses and goggles. So we look like we had been to a nuclear demonstration. And her mother came through the screen door open, came to the car and said, get in the house. And she runs in the house and goes, Mom, stop it. And then she looks at me, she's like, you take my daughter anywhere, I swear to God, I will call the police on you. I will have you put in jail. And she moves away. And I was like kind of lost. Like, I don't know what to do. My grandfather looked at me and went, she was mad. You want some pizza? And he took me out for pizza. And we never spoke about anything that happened, why I needed a ride or anything like that, which makes him kind of one of my favorite people of all time, that I can come to him with a crisis as he tends to do to me constantly, usually about tomato plants. And he cat file cabinets, so I have to pick 5 up tomorrow. And he's just a good man like that. And this story had it had an ending. Here it is. I eliminated, after we broke up, I felt, I don't know what it was that ended it. Maybe it was just like because it wasn't real love or whatever it is, or love isn't real, because I listened to too many songs and I'm not buying that bill of goods. Like, I got receipt in hand. So I think I've replaced my love with tremendous hatred for Rob Green over the years, because the same amount of effort into bothering him and doing stupid things to him, and he to I, is like more effort than most relationships that I have been in, where other women have actually gotten jealous of Rob, being like, why are you doing this to Rob? Why did you go and fill out an alumni donor form at a school he didn't go to instead of showing up for dinner on time? And I'm like, because they'll always find him no matter where he is. They're never gonna not ask for money. It's so funny. And Rob and I are the brothers, I think, that I've always wanted. And we had this victory this week of a couple of years ago. Rob visited right after I had a car accident and concussion, and I can't remember much, but I do remember that on our way home from San Diego to LA, a 2.5-hour drive, Rob made plans to go to a farmer's market at 8 a.m. hey, I got this girl at the farmer's market and we're going to have a date at 8 a.m. And I was like, okay, Larry, let's go home and go to sleep. He's like, no, that's the best part. I'm going to sleep across town at somebody else's house. So first we got to go to your house, get my ear pods, and then go over there. And so, oh, you have to work tomorrow? That's even better. So we drive from San Diego to my house to our friend Jenny's house. Along the way, I am like half asleep. I have just got a concussion several weeks ago, so I'm like really struggling to drive. And of course, Rob was like, I don't want to drive. And
that is not true. I always want to drive when Gary's driving.
And he's like, I want to be fresh for my date. So we're driving. I get pulled over. The state highway patrol gives me my first ticket ever, and we both are very tense. Chips, they're dressed as the Chips guys. And the good news is, here's good news, bad news. The people of Los Angeles County, people of the state of California versus Gary J. Peterson is dismissed with a great argument. Even better, it's an enterprise rent-a-car argument that Rob said, that'll never work. So
that's not true. That's my idea.
No, it's not. You said that'll never work. Just tell them you were speeding. You never admit to the crime. The best thing and the worst thing that I can only admire now that I know I don't have to pay any money was Rob, above all else, is annoying. Because we got this ticket. I knew he felt bad. I felt bad, and I'm angry. And again, concussion mind makes you like trigger hair, anger, things like that. So I'm just trying not to say, go fuck your face. And I'm just holding the wheel, and Rob's saying, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. And I go, don't worry about it. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I should have taken a lift. I'm so sorry. I go, don't worry about it. I'm not like worried about it. I'm sorry, it's different. What? You're saying don't worry about it. Like, why would I be worried? And he Larry's out. I would be worried about the ticket. It's not on my record. To the farmer's market. Rob is my brother, and we beat the system once again. And that's a story of how I've replaced love with hatred in my life.
All right, let's give it up for Gary Peterson. Thank you so much for telling that story in the middle of not one, but two slight power outages or internet messing up, whatever it may be. But yeah, thank you all, everyone, for being here for the last edition of the online Tales from the Inside. Angela, you could give some updates, but I believe we're eventually moving to in-person, correct?
Eventually.
Eventually.
Maybe at O'Brien's. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
We're going to see where it goes?
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but it'll be in person probably by the end of the summer. And the thing that you should know is that my roommate situation is upgraded from pigeons to these dolls. So.
I think that's an upgrade too. So thank you everyone for watching, and have a great rest of your night.